And then there's something that he said that I'll never forget that I think changed the trajectory of my first year of medical school. I almost quit med school, and this video is for anyone out there that's struggling in med school, especially in the first 2 years. So when I started med school, I think like most people, there's like this dissonance that happens, right? You have this idea of what it means to be a doctor, you have this idea of what medical school is, and most of the time it's not that accurate. At least for me, it wasn't. Where most people train, the first 2 years are the preclinical years. So what that means is you're doing science, you're studying microbiome, pathophys, pharmacology. You're really away from the patient encounters, from the clinic. This can be a little different, right, than when you're in a pre-med student and you're shadowing doctors, you're seeing what the day in the life of a doctor is. And then you go to med school and you're seeing what a day in the life of someone that lives in the library is. Very different experience. And I think all med students have that hope, right? Because they start in the preclinical years and they know that eventually they're going to get to the clinical years. When I was going through the preclinical years, the first few months were very difficult for me. I'm a pretty extroverted person, and I was in a new state with all new people. I kind of came into this medical school decision late, which school I was going to, so I didn't have a roommate. I basically lived in an apartment by myself, so this was a very drastic change for me. And I know this happens to a lot of people, right? You get in where you get in, and then you're studying all day, you're very isolated, and it's hard because you want to hang out with the people, but you also want to do well in your classes because that's why you're here. So it was really tough for me, and I know a lot of medical students feel the same way. They feel this isolation, they feel this need to like be perfect in their preclinical years or even just pass, which is very different, right, from the pre-med mentality. When I was a pre-med, it's like you got to get A's, but in medical school, sometimes you just feel like you got to pass, and that like dissonance and that shift from, okay, I just got to pass my classes to I'm getting all A's, and the difficulty level is extreme. A lot of med students at this point kind of feel like quitting. They I think can get pretty depressed. They can get very anxious. They can get in their head, and mostly because they're not, I know for me, one of the main factors was I wasn't seeing patients. Like I wasn't feeling that love of medicine that I felt when I chose to do this calling. And a lot of it was because I wasn't really helping people. There was no substance. I couldn't see what the future was going to be like when I was a doctor helping people. And you can make those dreams, right? First 2 years, you're thinking about, oh, I'm going to go into this field. I'm going to go into this field. I jumped all around. I'm going to go into psychiatry. Then I went to EM. Then I went to trauma surgery. Then I went to internal medicine. So I was jumping all around, and I had all these visions of what it meant to be a good doctor. But I wanted to make this video because I wanted to tell a story that when I was on the brink of quitting medical school, what helped me push through. And hopefully this is encouragement to anyone out there in medical school or even pre-med, to just give you some encouragement to continue on your path. So I remember it had been a very, very tough week, tough month in med school. I was doing okay, but I was isolated. I wasn't near my family. My girlfriend and I lived in completely different states that were plane rides away. And I remember she was visiting for some time. So I think she was visiting for the weekend, if I remember correctly. And where I went to med school, there was beaches nearby. Unfortunately, it took like forever to get to the beach. There was so much traffic, but we decided to go to the beach, just relax and have like a good day. While I was there, there was like internally, there was this pulling of like, should I be doing this? I was so unhappy at the time. I was not happy. I was wondering like, why would God call me into doing this profession if I'm just so miserable? We're walking on this town near the beach, and this guy that was homeless, he came up to me and he started talking to me and my wife, and we were talking to him, and he was a really cool guy. Like he had like a man bun. He looked like a nomad. Like he was just walking along the beach, would sleep on the beach, and he was just telling me how he would like sleep on the beach, and he would have talks with God on the beach. And from what I remember, he like saw my cross and started to talk to me about that. And then there's something that he said that I'll never forget that I think changed the trajectory of my first year of medical school. So he asked me like what I do, and I told him like, oh, I'm in medical school. And when you tell anyone that like, hey, I'm in medical school, Usually what they'll ask after that, it's like, oh, what kind of doctor do you want to be? Like, that's great, blah, 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 and they go on this whole thing. And that's kind of what I was expecting. But the question that he asked me was, I said, yeah, I'm in medical school. And he looked at me and he was like, are you going to finish? I was like, what? Am I going to finish? And before I can even like try to reason with that, I said, yeah, I'm going to finish. And I just like jumped right to that answer. This was a huge like turning point for me, because I felt like in this situation, God was asking me, was telling me like through this man, hey, like, yeah, you're here. Are you going to get through it? Are you going to make it through? Where's your heart in this? And I always call this guy like the Sandy man bun angel, because by asking me that question, he kind of reframed it for me. It allowed me to like confront that question head on. And the fact that I jumped like right to the answer, like, yes, I'm going to finish. I knew deep down that this was going to be tough. This was going to be a tough couple years, and it totally was. But through it all, God was going to help me get to the finish line. And we just had the Olympics, right? I don't know if anyone saw Cole Hawker. He won the men's, I believe, 1500. And one of the quotes that he said, I'm going to like misquote it because I don't have it written down or anything, but he basically said like God carried him through the finish line. God carried him through the finish line. I just want to encourage you guys today that like this Sandy man bun angel that talked to me on the beach and asked me like, are you going to finish? To trust that God is going to carry you through the finish line, and that if this is the plan for you, that it's what you're meant to do and it's where you're meant to go, and it's going to be tough and it will be hard, but I want you to just keep striving for that finish line. And if you do reflect and you realize like, hey, maybe this isn't for me, and maybe there's another plan that God has for me in my life, then you can always pivot, and that's fine. But I wanted to make this video today to let you guys know that one day I thought about quitting. There was thoughts about quitting, and I think that's normal. But through this experience and over time, I realized like how grateful I am to be a doctor, to be here, to be helping people. And it gets so much better. The preclinical years can be really isolating. You're just so focused on the textbooks. But then when you are able to see what you read and see it in people, and to be able to love them by helping them from the treatments and the diagnosis and the plans that you have based on what you read, and be able to bring the textbook to life and love on them through helping them, is just the best feeling ever. And you may feel those times of like darkness and drought in the beginning, but once you start helping people and once you start seeing like the impact that you can have through those hard times and what you learn through them and how you can help people now, it's an amazing feeling. So just want to encourage you on that today. Once again, thanks so much for watching, and we're almost at 1,000 subs, so please subscribe. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video.